Africa, focusing on both the transformative opportunities and the practical barriers to implementation. The panelists that we will have on stage will aim to identify actionable strategies for overcoming these hurdles through collaboration, policy, innovation, as well as capacity building and regional cooperation. Now, as we did with earlier sessions, before we get into the gist of it, let us set the stage with a short video.
Africa is rising. But rising demands require bold energy solutions. From industrial growth to digital transformation, the need for reliable, clean electricity has never been greater. With the right approach, nuclear energy can be a game changer, delivering consistent, low-emission power while supporting long-term development. Yet, the path forward is not without obstacles. Infrastructure, regulation, investment, and public trust must all move in step. This session brings together the leaders and experts working to turn challenges into opportunities through collaboration, policy innovation, and regional partnerships. Vision, action, impact.
Vision, action, impact. Opportunities and challenges of nuclear energy adoption is the title for this session. At this juncture, I would love you to join me in welcoming on stage our distinguished speakers, starting off with Wei Huang, Director of Nuclear Planning Innovation and Knowledge Management at IAEA. Please go on stage. Next is Professor Najat Mohammed, Director General, Tanzania Atomic Energy Commission. Karibu sana. Next is Dr. Fidel Nahayo, Chief Executive Officer, Rwanda Atomic Energy Board, RAEB. We also have Dr. Stephen Yamoa, Executive Director, Nuclear Power, Ghana. Thank you. To moderate this conversation, I would love to invite Francesca Giovanni, Executive Director, Harvard Belfer Center Initiative of Managing the Atom.
Good afternoon. Since it's my very first time taking the floor, let me thank wholeheartedly the government of Rwanda for inviting me, but also for hosting this very timely and inspiring conversation. I'm also particularly happy to be here to represent the Harvard Kennedy School and Harvard University. We are the oldest university in the United States. And of course, every time we talk about a revolution, technological revolution, energy revolution, academia must be at the table because you need innovative minds, you need young people who are trained to think in a very free and innovative ways, and academia is the place where you can actually grow the new labor force that you will need to power this revolution. Let me say that all panels that have preceded this one pointed out how historical this moment is for Africa and for the world in general. We are certainly at the cusp of a technological revolution, from artificial intelligence to quantum computing, space, drones. Everything in between seems somehow to be accelerating and changing. But I want to put into perspective the relation between energy and technology in the following way. The first two revolutions that preceded this one have all been powered by a very specific type of energy. The first revolution made the United Kingdom a great power because the United Kingdom was the very first country using coal in an industrial way. The second revolution was powered by oil. It made the United States a superpower because the United States employ oil for industrial manufacturing. And so it is logical to ask, what is going to be the energy that will power the third revolution? And whoever masters that energy at that industrial level will dominate the 21st century. So it is indispensable for Africa to get the nuclear revolution right and to do it with the right people. So I'm particularly pleased to moderate this panel today. We have a wide range of expertise from, of course, an international organization to government and country-specific expertise. And what we hope to do today is to drill a little bit more on some of the topics we've talked about in the previous panels, but also understand how the international context, and more specifically case studies from other regions, might be able to inform the decision that Africa makes today about investing in nuclear energy. And so I want actually to start with a round of questions to all my panelists, and really begin with you, Mr. Huang. You come from the International Atomic Energy Agency. So in your view, what are the most urgent steps in the depletion of nuclear technology?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Good afternoon, colleagues, audience. It's my pleasure to come back to this beautiful city and a beautiful venue. I would like to say thank you for Rwanda hosting this nuclear innovation summit. And 3 years ago, I came here actually to attend this SDG forum, organized also by Rwanda government and also this C4O. At that time, nuclear is only like a sideline event. We were staying in that one small room for some side event. Now you see today, we have this venue, all talk about the nuclear topic. You see the change in the past 3 years. So this really, the African continent, this continent has a big potential for this energy transition, including the nuclear's role, projection mechanism. By 2030, nuclear can, in the high case, nuclear can reach like threefold, 3 times larger than today's capacity by 2030, and 10 times larger by today's capacity by 2050. This is a higher case projection. But the low case projection is also around like two times of today's capacity by 2030, and 5 times larger today's capacity by 2050. So this reflects the big potential of the nuclear in supporting this continent for achieving their energy transition objectives. Obviously, achieving this target, you need really take some concrete action on the ground. So there are many issues need to be taken, many action taken care, and also action to be taken by the country who are interested in the nuclear. So in this continent, actually, in today's panel, you can see it's a very interesting composition. We have a country which also has different stage in terms of agency milestone approach. We have a
Actually, we in the beginning, and we are now we have declared that now we want to go for nuclear energy. Now, as I can see, generally that many of African countries, we have challenges, main 3 challenges. One is for funding, because the nuclear energy is costing. It needs upfront big investment capital. Although the SMR has lower, it's a bit cheaper than the previous NPP. However, we need now to arrange for funding, including to contact the international organizations. But don't forget also to have PPP, that is public-private partnership within our countries. Maybe that can help. We also lack the capacity. Capacity means we don't have the nuclear workforce. Unfortunately, we in Africa, or most of the African countries, we consider nuclear science and technology as a specialized field. So we start teaching the nuclear or training for the nuclear science and technology after the first degree, mostly. So we need now to try to change our curriculum, to invest in the STEM, curriculum, starting to introduce the safety use of nuclear science and technology in the lower secondary curriculum, so that when they reach the higher level, at the university level, at least we'll have scientists, a pool of scientists where we can pick some to be nuclear workforce. We can introduce also in our universities programs such as nuclear engineering. We don't have that. It's time now to introduce them in our universities so that we can have, when that time reaches for us to have the plant, then we have our own capacity. We also need to include the public. This is a big challenge, because if the program is not accepted by the public or there is no political will, then there might be a problem. And that problem can come later when we are ready to launch or we are ready to start building. So we need to start including the public now. We do all the arrangements, we do all the preparations, but we don't forget the public. And for Tanzania, for example, experience, as I have said, most of the public do not have basic science of the nuclear. They don't have information. Their main source of information is the news, and unfortunately in the news, what they hear is nuclear weapon and the power of some countries over the other because of the nuclear weapon. So myself, I have been trying to go to the media most of the time to talk to the people, and I let them ask questions, and most of the questions they come, are we going for nuclear weapon? Are we ready for that? Because all they know is that. So we need to start with the basics, the applied nuclear physics, or applied nuclear science, useful and safety use of the nuclear science, so that we can go stage by stage. And in the advocacy, we should include media, we should include the government officials, members of parliament, all including the nuclear power now. Because we used to have like nuclear act, but at that time we didn't include the nuclear energy. So we now
I think the first priority is to have a critical number of people with right skills in the sector. Because if you don't have, we take in implementing the project to when you achieve the project. And then the last priority I can mention here is when you try to go out and find a partner or a vendor to work with. So as you have seen, there are so many vendors. Everyone is can't matter who is your vendor. Any nuclear country is a good technology. What is remaining is to build the capacity to operate it safely and securely. That's what I can say.
Fantastic. I want to pick up on a point which I think is also a great suggestion, which is in order to build a narrative around nuclear energy, we need to tie this to very specific local industries, right? We need to show why this is necessary for industrial champions in various countries. And I think this is a really important logic that sometimes we forget. Now, let me finish this round with you, Dr. Yamoa. Of course, Ghana has made a lot of steps already. And so I'd like to ask you to share a little bit how Ghana thought about its priorities. What were the first steps that Ghana took, and how much does this can inform, in a way, what other African countries might do?
Yeah, thank you very much. Like you rightly said, we have moved on from phase 1 to phase 2. And from my perspective as the head of the owner-operator organization, the number one priority, do we get the political authority, the political class to be in sync that there is political support or no political support? but we look at it in the context of, what we call the political cycle. Okay, so they are elected for 4 years, and nuclear takes 12, 15 years. And they ask themselves, what are we going to sell to the electorates at the end of my 4 years? And then they juxtapose that with the investment that has to go to the nuclear and the other national needs. And so putting it in a continental context, I will say that there is the urgent need for all these countries to have political commitment that translates into national strategy and national involvement. And here I'm not talking about the stakeholder, general stakeholder, but you have key institutions, public and private, that should be brought on board right from the onset. So it becomes a national strategy, a national agenda, not at the discretion of, say, the person who is at the Ministry of Energy or Ministry of Finance. But once you're able to achieve this kind of national strategy, it sets the stage for acceleration. And then couple that by establishing key institutions and resourcing these institutions. That is very important. And if you can achieve these two broad areas, then the others will fall in. For example, having to do your human resource capacity assessment, having to do your legal regulatory framework assessment, and then the general stakeholder engagement that, you look at the various institutions, civil society organizations, the general public and the media, and bring all these people on board. But importantly, that political commitment that goes beyond government, that go beyond parties, that really center on the national strategy and in sync with the national energy and infrastructural requirement is very important.
Terrific. All right, let me then raise another question. We have heard this morning how important regional cooperation is. And we've also heard the progress that has been made to integrate energy grids across the continent, the importance of regional regulatory frameworks. But I think we also have to be honest, and coming from the European Union, I can bring a little bit the frustration of both the need to cooperate regionally and the need to preserve national interest, right? And these two sometimes can be in conflict with one another. So I wanted to ask, out of all the recommendations you have made so far, where does regional cooperation in specific play an important role? Because of course every single country will want to abide its own national interest, will want to do nuclear in a certain way, right, that abide by your strategic culture. And yet regional cooperation is indispensable. So can I begin with you, Dr. Nandayu, just to give us a sense of how you think about regional cooperation?
Yeah. It's true, every country is trying to find solutions to address its energy problems. But in doing so, every country finds itself in a situation where its own capability is not enough to implement such projects. Therefore, there is a need to look at regional cooperation. So this is so true, especially when you come to the issue of training and training the required human resources. So we cannot successfully implement a nuclear energy project when you train your skills abroad. It will be expensive and not sustainable. So the sustainable solution is to develop training programs in the country. But these training programs require heavy equipment, very expensive, that one country cannot afford alone. And the best idea actually is to share the regional training center, well-equipped regional training center that can be used by all the countries on affordable terms. That's one component that can foster regional integration, as every country is looking at implementing the solution to meet its own energy demand, but the regional training center will help each and every country to train the required skilled force and then go back to the country, implement the project. So another issue that will require regional cooperation is that you will never have the local industry capability at the level to satisfy the needs of the project you want to implement. At the beginning, for the first project, it's almost impossible. But when you look at the region you are located in, and you look at the broader regional supply chain, you may find solutions that will help you implement your national project and also foster regional integration. Those two key cooperation areas can help.
Terrific. Dr. Yamao, I know you have called into question a little bit the concept of regional cooperation. You said, well, African countries are in different phases right now. So how do you think about regional cooperation?
Yes, to continue from where Fidel left off. So first, for effective regional cooperation, the participating countries should have had a policy and a strategy to go nuclear. And also, importantly, also to have a common time frame within which they want to cooperate and support each other. Because without that, that is going to be difficult in achieving regional cooperation. And I also want to say that regional cooperation does not necessarily mean from the start all the countries within a particular bloc should be ready and cooperating before such a cooperation can start. I believe 2, 3, 4 countries, when ready, can come together as a regional bloc with a purpose, with a strategy, with a roadmap, and have an open window to admit other countries that might be interested, perhaps having a different, perhaps more longer time frame to be involved. And through this, the strength and weaknesses of each of these countries can be brought on board, and who can play what. But of course also the legal framework is important. And the political stability of the participating countries is also very key. You cannot imagine when 2, 3, 4 countries start and there is an election, there's a new government in one of those countries, and they are no longer interested. That will be a setback. So political stability and national agenda is very key. And again, as I said, we don't have to be, it shouldn't be, everybody should be ready before such a cooperation can start.
Terrific. Professor Mohammed.
Many have been said. However, I was thinking when they were talking that maybe we can also try to have regulatory harmonization. So if we either we adopt them from the International Atomic Energy Agency, or we have like MOUs between countries in the region, and then we agree to have regulatory harmonization. Now, if we have that, first it will build confidence, safety confidence between countries, such that we can have our power plants, SMR, maybe at the border, where we can have connecting grids, so that we can have that, what we have been saying since the morning, the power pool. We strengthen the East Africa power pool or Southern African power pool. Or we can even think of having cross-border projects. We can have joint ventures, for instance, so that because we have confidence of the safety regulation between countries. We can also have emergency preparedness. All of this can allow us to have share the power plants easily between ourselves.
That is a really interesting idea, to use geography at your advantage.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Mr. Wang, of course, the International Atomic Energy Agency has done gazillion things at the regional level, inter-regional level. Can you share a little bit your experience?
Yeah, thank you very much. As you said, international cooperation is like a fundamental principle of agency been built because we actually provide this international platform for country to share. In terms of African region, definitely this is a regional cooperation has been advocated by the agency in addition to our cooperation, because this can also encourage the continental countries to share among them. It's more like a global South-South cooperation, because they have a different level of development. Up to today is only one nuclear power plant, 2 units in South Africa, and Egypt is going to build their first nuclear power plant with 4 units, and the others countries now at different levels in terms of this milestone approach, as I mentioned. So at different level, they can have a different experience and lessons learned during their preparation for whatever all these issues related to the milestone approach. So I think putting together using this regional approach can really make this capacity building more efficient, more effective. And for example, agency, we have a lot of mechanisms, including this technical cooperation framework, which we have a national project and also a regional project, dedicated to some common issues faced by the region, by the regional countries. So this could be more efficient as a complementary capacity building for the national project, which is more focused on the country. And I also like to give some additional ad hoc capacity building, like a school, which has also now become a very common approach for agency for the private capacity building. For example, in addition to this nuclear management school we have been using for decades, now agency also start to implement this SMR school, which is the focus of today's conference. Try to give more comprehensive information about SMR, from the technology readiness and also the kind of opportunities and the challenges for country to quickly understand. The last one actually organized just last month in Kenya is actually the one SMR school in the continent. We are going to implement more SMR schools in different countries based on their needs. That school is not only for Kenya, actually for the region. So it's more like a regional SMR school. So I heard the other panelists already mention this stakeholder engagement. This is also a very important issue among these 19 issues under the framework. For this one, actually, agency make a lot of effort in the past years. And just last month, at the end of May, we organized the first stakeholder engagement conference in Vienna. We brought different kind of stakeholders to have this kind of conversation on the issues faced to the countries and also regions. So in addition to this conference, this high-level dialogue, and the agency also is going to implement this stakeholder school. We already have one already in the ICTP. So we are going to also implement this one to the country, to the region. And also agency is ready to provide also like a advice service on this topic to help country to, when they implement this agency stakeholder engagement guidance, and we can also give some out of direct assistance, tailored service for country to address their specific needs. So I think that could be also very helpful for the country and for the region. And also we have many other mechanisms like collaborating centers, which is dedicated for different subjects. And that center not only for the country, which is hosted that one, but also can serve the country in the region and in the continent.
Fantastic. So in the last 11 minutes, I want to focus on a couple of issues that the other panels have not necessarily touched on, and one is in particular public opinion. Public opinion is fundamental because having public opinion that rejects, that does not understand, as Professor Mohammed said, the safety of nuclear technology, the difference between nuclear technology for civilian use and nuclear weapons can be a real obstacle. And so I wanted to reflect with all of you on strategies to educate the public, to buy also their support in terms of making them understand the benefits, the opportunities. And I wanted to start with you, Professor Mohammed. You work on regulatory frameworks, so you have to build the trust between society and the state. How do you think about public opinion? Where is public opinion today in Tanzania, for example? And what are you doing to address the fears they might have?
Thank you very much. Currently, the public opinion is, as I have said before, people are scared. If you say nuclear, they relate directly to the nuclear weapon, most of them. So we are trying to go through media to teach them that nuclear is something else. There are so many applications of nuclear. We start with that. Showing the case, showing examples. Because in Tanzania, for instance, like 2 or 3 years back, we received a Nobel Prize for having the best rice seeds, which are called Super BC. So we need to tell people about this. We need to go to them to explain the useful applications. There are so many applications in the medical field, like for treatment of cancer. X-rays is common, everybody knows about X-rays. So we start from what they know, and we go slowly to what they don't know. We try to go to any kind of exhibition, because we have like national exhibitions of different kind, where people, public come to visit. So we try our best to show the success stories, what we have done so far. Of course, with the help of IAEA. We have so many success stories, but they are not told, they are not elaborated to the public. So we need to do that. We also need to collaborate with the universities now to introduce special programs, trainings. Even for us, the regulatory body, we can do short-term trainings to train people on radiation protection, for instance. But we can have also a long-term trainings. We, TAIC, we have also set aside some funds for scholarship, because for now, currently, we don't have the expertise on most of the nuclear applications. So we have set aside a scholarship. 6 Tanzanians will go abroad to study nuclear technology, nuclear science and technology. And one of the priority is nuclear energy. And others, like for the hospitals, nuclear medicine and nuclear physics. So we have to do that. And I think we also have to recommend to the ministry that we need now to introduce nuclear science, introduction to the curriculum from maybe early secondary schools. Because now Tanzania is going to have a new curriculum, which will involve many of the hands-on teaching, which we think we might attract students to study science. So it's now time to introduce in the curriculum.
And in relation to nuclear energy.
Yeah, that's a good question. I will try to address that question differently. So it has been said since this morning that in Africa, there are more than 600 million people without access to electricity. So if you go to those 600 million people without access to electricity and ask them whether they want electricity from hydropower or from nuclear, what they will tell you is that we don't care where the electricity comes from. What we need is electricity. So sometimes the need for electricity is a matter of life or death. In that situation, you don't have many choices. So luckily in Rwanda, so we have been debating the issue of, among the decision maker, there is a consensus that without nuclear energy, we don't have any workable solution to preschools and universities. And when you talk to these young people, what you see, the movies they have watched or some news they have heard of, and sometimes it's mistaken. There is a perceived risk of energy. So maybe safer than nuclear energy is solar energy. So then, for the people to change that opinion, we have not only to emphasize on nuclear energy, We need also to point out and develop non-energy application, a good radiotherapy center. But what most of the people don't know, that behind that radiotherapy technique,
Or if there is an explosion, it is nuclear. And so that platform that we have provided to the media enables them to reach out to us. And also it has really helped them. We've taken a couple of them to visit advanced countries, to expose them to nuclear facilities, and they come out and they become the advocates. So that has really helped us. And then also, we also have a deliberate engagement with institutions like, the parliamentarians. We have different committees. And at that level, you have both parties, both in government and in opposition. So we engage them at that level. Mostly, for example, General Conference, we travel with them. They have meetings with IEA officials, and that brings them to some sort of, calmness, as to, the nuclear that we hear and our views and perception about nuclear and what is the reality. So that is really helping. And then, of course, at the community level, where we have a special engagement where we have our sites. And I should say, as Fidel also said, to the general public, majority of them, and of course also to government and industry, there are two things. The prospect of reliable, secure electricity, that is something that really they buy into it. And to the general public also, the prospect of job, the potential that there will be job, direct, indirect job. So on that front, they are very much interested in the nuclear program, but you can get one person who can change the whole thing. So sustaining and maintaining the stakeholder and the interest is very key.
Terrific. Mr. Wanga, I come to you to education, being clear about other benefits of nuclear energy, not only electricity, but also medicine and agriculture.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's my honor to give the last talk on this topic. I have to say that during this stakeholder engagement process, we believe that transparency is very crucial to gain the trust from the different stakeholders. And we have been doing this one, not only in the countries, but also in this global climate dialogue, because I'm the agency focal point for UNFCCC, IPCC. I also been in the COPs, including the previous COP. And we have events there. We receive a lot of questions. I think that the public fear mainly come from a few things. It's about the safety, the radioactive waste, how you're going to handle that, and the cost for these questions to give some factual data to respond to that one. Because I think we have to face what happened in the past decades in the nuclear community, nuclear sector. But I think as long as you use the quantify the data, the information, to present in front of the public, that can be effective. For example, agency now, we are working with the different countries, helping countries to build up their national position. But national position not just built by plan. You have to build based on process, how you can do it, how you can really position nuclear in your energy mix in the coming decades. This action has been supporting the competitive, but it can be done if you make sure nuclear can be completed in time on budget, by budget, because nuclear upfront cost structure is very sensitive to the construction period, because make sure this project can be delivered on time on budget is very helpful. But also another national environmental policy can also be helpful for deliver the nuclear project if they can create some kind of enabling environment, giving some favorable conditions similar like renewable has been enjoying in the past decade. So this MOU has been signed between the agency and the World Bank. It's kind of really a breakthrough in this MDB, but it's not, make sure there are different financial options, mechanism can be provided by national institution and public fund and MDB and also private investors. So a lot of things need to be done, but we need to provide all this option for the countries to make sure they know how they're going to consider and what process they need to follow.
This was a very rich conversation. I was honored to moderate this panel with these great experts. Please join me